Doctor Who has just announced its next multi-platform event. Doomsday is a special multi-platform story that will celebrate Doctor Who's 60th anniversary by introducing a brand new character on a 24-hour pursuit of the Doctor. So just to give some context to this, we got a teaser for it 24 hours beforehand. For some reason, both the teaser and the announcement itself came at 11 AM. Not sure if that's significant at all in any way. But yeah, the teaser was like a kind of ticking clock with the arms going round and stopping at 11 o'clock with no other context other than the fact that something called Doomsday was coming our way. And then some eagle-eyed fans spotted an Amazon audiobook listing for a Doctor Who audiobook from BBC Audiobooks, or whatever the company's called, with Doomsday in the title, and also a submenu page on the Big Finish website for something called Doomsday. So many fans were kind of suspecting that perhaps this was the next multi-platform event in the vein of Time Lord Victorious, and now of course we know for sure that it is. Just to explain briefly as well what Time Lord Victorious was for anyone out of the loop. Like I say, that was Doctor Who's first attempt at something like this. Basically a multi-platform event or multi-platform story, which basically in simple terms means a story told across loads of different types of media. You know, Doctor Who magazine comics, Titan comics, Big Finish audios, BBC audiobooks, novels, merchandise, other live immersive experience, Time Fracture as well. All these things kind of came together, telling their own stories, their own standalone stories in their own right, and they could be kind of consumed as such. But when you kind of consumed them all and experienced them all together, they became part of this greater whole, this greater storyline known as Time Lord Victorious. And now, 3 years later, Doctor Who is giving that idea another go, but with one crucial difference. So whereas Time Lord Victorious very heavily focused on the character of the Doctor, and particularly the 10th Doctor, who of course, was the Time Lord Victorious on screen in The Waters of Mars, Doomsday focuses on a different character entirely, and not only that, but a brand new character created specifically for this story. So let's take a look at what the official press release has to say. Someone has sent literal death after Doom. She can only outrun it for 24 hours. Unless she can find the Doctor. Launching later in 2023, this standalone transmedia series will allow Doctor Who fans to follow Doom, the universe's greatest assassin, as she travels through all of time and space in pursuit of the Doctor to save her from the ever-approaching death. She only has 24 hours and a vortex manipulator to save herself before her fate is sealed forever. Stand-up comedian, comedy sketch artist and actor Suze Kempner will be the face and voice of Doom, and a number of fan favourite characters will feature along her journey. Russell T Davies says, Doomsday is a huge new adventure for the whole Doctor Who universe, starring the brilliant and hilarious Suze Kempner as an intergalactic assassin. Her adventures will span comics, audio, a novel, video game stories and more, expanding the world of Doctor Who into brand new territories. Beware the Doomsday, it's coming for us all. Suze Kempner says, to be part of the Doctor Who universe, a British institution up there with cups of tea and James Bond, is surreal and amazing. I love everything about Doom, and can't believe I get to travel across time and space with her. Doomsday will kick off on Doctor Who digital channels later this year, followed by products from Doctor Who magazine, Titan Comics, Penguin Random House, Eastside Games, Big Finish, and BBC Audio, each telling a section of Doom's story. Each partner will create their own adventures for Doomsday, each focusing on one of the 24 hours Doom has left on the clock. The standalone stories will also have an overarching narrative that will play out before the finale, which will release on Doctor Who digital channels. And then to go alongside that, we have a little in-character video clip of Doom introducing the character to us. We've got a picture of her too, giving us a proper look at her costume, and the logo for the event, which incorporates the clock face into the first O of Doom's. So like I say, this is coming hot off the heels of Time Lord Victorious, which kind of spanned 2020 into 2021. Obviously a bit of a different landscape back then as well, because of COVID and the pandemic and stuff. It still did go ahead, but there were particular parts of it, particular elements, things like a vinyl, I think, that was meant to be available in Asda stores that had to be sort of reimagined and kind of done in a different way, or things like Time Fracture, which obviously didn't get going until 2021. I thought it was a nice idea, but in actual practice, I only kind of consumed bits of it. I read the Doctor Who magazine comic strip, which was available in Doctor Who magazine anyway, so I wasn't paying any extra money for that. I watched the Daleks animated series I did on YouTube. Again, that was available for free. I basically just stuck to the stuff that was available for free and that you didn't have to pay any extra for, and enjoyed them, for what they were. That those particular strands, that they were fine enough, and all the other stuff, the novels, the Big Finish audio dramas, etc. That's all there for me to go back to, in years to come, one day when I get bored. I think one criticism of Time Lord Victorious, kind of, across the board from everybody, from people that didn't necessarily consume it and people that did as well, was kind of like the storyline was a bit confusing. Like, everything did kind of play into this greater whole, this greater storyline, but it wasn't particularly straightforward. There was like this timeline they released, I think, kind of showing you how to consume things in the correct order, and because things were being released sort of out of order, and because as well there were different kind of timelines, different perspectives, from which you could consume the whole thing, like from the 8th Doctor's perspective, the 9th Doctor's perspective, the 10th Doctor's perspective, Brian Lude's perspective. It's a nice idea, and to some extent that stuff was kind of out of their control, I suppose, because there were so many licensees involved, so many different companies doing their own thing. It must have been quite difficult to kind of coordinate that together, but the chronology of it was a bit kind of wacky and wild, and I guess with this, perhaps because we've got this kind of structure of the 24 hours in which Doom is kind of carrying out this mission or whatever it is, potentially things will be a bit easier to follow, I guess, in that regard, and potentially, we're going to get those hours kind of delivered to us in order. Like Big Finish will do 1 o'clock, Doctor Who magazine will do 2 o'clock, Titan Comics will do 3 o'clock, etc, etc. Another big criticism of Time Lord Victorious was the fact that it kind of focused so heavily on the 10th Doctor, particularly at a time when Jodie Whittaker was still the Doctor, and it was basically like completely separate to what was going on TV. Now, we don't know for sure, why exactly that was. There was no kind of stipulation that it had to be, kind of tied into the TV stuff as well. Indeed, maybe that the people down in Cardiff didn't actually want it to be tied in. Maybe they wanted it to be like a separate thing. We just don't know. But certainly from an outsider's perspective, it was a bit of a shame, to not have that kind of tie-in element, to have this multi-platform story, this massive scale, unprecedented thing for Doctor Who, and to have it as something which doesn't involve the current Doctor, and which wasn't kind of tied in to current events, in the series on screen. Now, with Doomsday, this looks to potentially be quite different, most prominently because we haven't actually got the Doctor front and centre this time. We've got this brand new character of Doom instead, which I think, it's kind of a bit of a risk, I suppose, because it's not like a recognisable pre-existing part of the Doctor Who brand. But at the same time, it's quite nice to have this sort of outsider character coming into the world of Doctor Who, and presumably kind of bumping into all these characters, from the show that we do know, and monsters and things along her journey. I think it'll make it a bit more refreshing, a bit more new kind of feeling, whereas Time Lord Victorious very much felt like something kind of harking back to the past, harking back to the 10th Doctor's era, to the Waters of Mars, etc. And indeed, the article does say that this is going to be a celebration of, the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, and kind of tying, in some way to the 60th. Now, I'd be very surprised if Doom did actually cross over into the main show and appeared in the TV episodes later this year. I don't think that's going to happen. But perhaps there will be some kind of subtle crossover between the two things. Or perhaps, on the other hand, this is going to give us an opportunity to celebrate 60 years of Doctor Who in a completely different way to the TV specials, by having, other Doctors, classic Doctors getting involved, like via audio or whatever, by Big Finish, via novels and things. Maybe this is going to be a chance for us to see some other fan favourite characters, monsters, Doctors that aren't involved in the specials, but to still kind of have them involved in the 60th year as a whole. Whatever the case, this was certainly not on my bingo card for the 60th anniversary. I kind of vaguely assumed that at some point in the future we'd get some sort of follow-up to Time Lord Victorious, but I wasn't kind of anticipating anything, so soon. But it's great that we've got something. I think at this stage I'm kind of cautiously optimistic about this and kind of intrigued by it as well, because it is still very much early days. We don't have a lot to go off, we don't know which characters are going to be in this, which monsters, etc. But hopefully it's going to be good. Those are my thoughts on the Doomsday announcement and my roundup as well of everything we know so far about Doctor Who's next multi-platform event. What are your thoughts on Doomsday? Is it something which interests you or doesn't interest you, or something which you're kind of still a bit on the fence about? Whatever your thoughts, please make them known down in the comments below. If you have enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new for more stuff like this in the future. But otherwise, until the next one, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.